Welcome to another episode of Highline. This is Jason Knox with my good friend Richard Gaither. We are on our second episode. Had an absolute blast recording our first, and today we are going to go a little more in depth talking about cannabinoid conversions and cannabinoids in general. So I will throw the stone over to you, my friend.
Well, thanks for doing this again with me, Jason. I had a lot of fun on the last one and sent the video or the podcast around, had some people listen to it, and people really liked it. And I think we picked conversion just because that's kind of the big thing happening right now,
Hmm.
and we can kind of document the history that's unfolding um, right now. Like since we talked, there's another cannabinoid that came into play is HHC, and it's supposedly a hard hitter, and and I've learned some more about the Delta 10, and the Delta 10. There's a lot of loss, and for what you get out of it, it's not as popular, so it's more
Right, right.
expensive and turns purple, and there's just some things. So this HHC is interesting because I hadn't heard much about it, and I'm sure there's people done it years ago. I'm sure there's people that have converted it that didn't even know what they had done. Um, and so it's kind of cool these guys to get a come on board with this and be the forefronts of it. I'm not the guy in the lab finding the new ones, but I know the process, and that's kind of
You
what
got
I wanted to.
your thumb on the heartbeat of this right now.
Yeah,
So just tell the average listener what HHC is about.
I'm learning right now, Jason, what it is, and you
Is
know,
it more
I
of do you know if it's more of the psychoactive version of the
I think it
cannabinoid?
is. I think it is. I haven't personally been able to try it yet. I think
Gotcha.
right now it is. Um, and some of this stuff is interesting to talk price point too. So like right now, I think at about 6 grand a liter. And I think Delta 8, some people can get it for 500 a liter. But I kind of want to go back. And it'll kind of make more sense if we reverse engineer the thing and talk about going in depth on a layman's terms that people can understand, just kind of get their head a little bit around the conversion process in the beginning. And so that's kind of what I'm thinking on this podcast would be a lot of fun. And so I really think for me, people were selling isolate and making isolate before the farm bill, but
Yeah, and you're
after the
talking about
farm.
CBD isolate. I mean,
Yep,
mainly.
see, yep, exactly. CBD isolate. I think after the Farm Bill was signed, late 2018, um, things changed, and from a farming point, we'll just start the conversion. How it happens, let's start right at the farm, and these farmers put in some hemp that it grows really great, but it's not all compliant, which means it's hot in THC. But
Hmm.
that's the good hemp. That's the
Yeah,
stuff
no,
that
I
grows
agree.
good.
And that's kind of been actually, that brings up a good point, right? So hemp has this 0.3% THC issue, right? But that's kind of stirred this whole isolate market. It stirred this whole conversion market because people are having to take cannabinoids to their final form, isolate them to make them legal for sale.
Yeah, let's make it even more real. Let's go back to a farmer bought some fucking seeds that he was told were compliant THC seeds, and all of a sudden he's grown fucking 500-600 acres of it, and it's hot.
Uh-huh.
It's hot in THC, and it's like, okay, some people got to go burn it at that point.
Right.
And so us as extractors, we would get it, and we would make it even hotter if we just made it into oil.
Right.
And
Pure
and
full spectrum extract is kind of what the term people hear,
yep,
which is very medicinal, but it's not considered federally legal in that format.
grown that way,
Grown,
in some
grown naturally,
some
organically.
stores, In a dispensary, it's great. Not in a dispensary, it's not so great. And so,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
it created a thing of, well, if a farmer wants to get his money out of his hemp, he's got to remediate the THC.
Right. And that's kind of exactly that pushed right into the isolate market. It also allowed more uh, international and national based companies to get into the market because CBD was legal. Um, and they were still scared of micro amounts of THC. So CBD isolate allowed what everyone saw with a large influx of companies coming into the CBD market, because 90% plus of the CBD products out there on the market right now are CBD isolate, which is technically inferior to, full spectrum CBD oil, but having those micro amount of THC, having the micro amounts of THC um, infused into your product is kind of challenging. Nonetheless, again, you have the legal hurdles. Um, our products are full spectrum CBD extract products, but we have to make sure that they're lab tested and stay under the 0.3% THC so that they're 50 state legal, which is a challenge, right? That's a hurdle. It's a whole
Definitely.
extra procedure. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I've seen this whole market kind of explode. I did
So
pull
going,
up HHC because I kind of
hmm
am interested, right? Every time we talk about a new cannabinoid, which is
yeah,
shows the market's like blowing up. Um, it says HHC stands for hexahydrocannabinol. um, it's actually naturally found. So last time we talked about THCO, right? Also known as
yeah,
THCO acetate. That's not natural, which we'll talk
right.
more about. But HHC, it says it naturally occurs and is found in hemp, seeds, and pollen. This is new to me.
Yeah. So let's go back to the prime extraction, right? So like in the beginning of making, so we start at the farm.
Mhm.
As extractors, we go and we put it into ethanol, and we make a Rick Simpson crude oil, and then we go from that and we make a distillate. So now I'm in distillate form, and so this is really the beginning of the conversion process. If you want to go all the way to where, so I just kind of want to simplify it. So we go from plant material, we go to crude oil, we go to distillate, we go to isolate. Now we have 99.5% isolated cannabinoid that now you can do some chemistry with because it's in a pure enough form and you have
Right,
enough of
right.
one cannabinoid. So once we started doing that, so the process of remediating the THC gave us a very isolated product that now the alchemists of our generation says, wow, let's go do something with this. And so
Right,
that's
right.
really the
Well, and it's the
process.
farthest up the ladder as an alchemist or a chemist that you can kind of go on the chemistry side, right? Because you have these precursor cannabinoids um, that lead and form into the other ones, right? And so one of these
Right,
precursor cannabinoids is CBDA and CBD, right? And so you can
right.
take CBD and start converting it, as lots of people have heard, into Delta 9 THC, which gets you really high, of course. You can get Delta 8, Delta 10. Even in this
And
case, the what we were talking about, you can make Delta 8, but also THCO acetate, or THCO. So there's many
yeah.
different forms you can take it to.
And I
Uh,
think the first conversion that you and I saw in the beginning was going from CBDA to CBD.
yep,
And that's a and
yep.
that's a
We were
conversion.
playing with those ratios. So
And
we
that was
first
a
did
simple conversion that
right when we first did extraction, we did everything um, in super cold temperatures, under negative pressure, so that we maintained the pure cannabinoid in the full spectrum hemp extract. So instead of it with heat or pressure being converted from CBDA, which is what it is on the plant, over to CBD, which is what we all know, we were holding that in CBDA form all the way into our oil. And then, like Richard said, with a vacuum oven, while we were removing our organic ethanol that we use as a solvent, we could play with the conversion amounts from
And it's
CBDA
really
to CBD.
it's really through the decarboxylation, which is really the
Mhm.
coolest
Yeah, yeah, you were
point of
decarbing it. Yep,
conversion.
yep,
And that's a conversion with just heat and vacuum. And
yep,
and
yep.
and to me, that's the my favorite part, because now I'm converting it from a non-psychoactive cannabinoid to a psychoactive cannabinoid. And so that's really the first conversion. Now that we're talking about it, and I really think about it. And I think there's
Yeah,
some
and that was
colleges.
super basic, super easy, right? You were using pressure and temperature to convert the
Yeah,
cannabinoid, but there is
and
a
and
medicinal side to each, right? So you wanted to balance those two. The best full spectrum extract was a balance of a mixture of CBDA and CBD. Of course, you have
yeah,
all the other full spectrum cannabinoids, but that was the main cannabinoids you were dealing with CBDA converting over to CBD.
and for the very, for the novice person that might be listening to this, I really want to try and keep it, as in the simplest of terms, so it doesn't get into a chemistry thing. um, is that's the exciting thing that happens with marijuana when we do put flame to it, whether you're smoking it or anything. That's where the magic happens.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
is
like
is
raw
when we
flower that
smoke it.
they go to smoke usually is THCA, or
Yeah, it's
yeah,
not going
the
to do
acidic
much
form.
for you. You
Um,
know,
yeah, and that's why they say if you eat it, it's not really going to do much. Now,
it's not going
there's
to do
stuff
much
in
for
your
you.
stomach that'll convert it, stuff like that, right? But your
Yeah,
fat lipids, which so that depends on your metabolic absorption. But when you talk about brownies or edibles that get you high, right? Those are usually made by introducing like a fat, like butter. And that butter is usually infused, right? Those fat lipids are usually infused with cannabinoids, converting the THCA over to THC slowly, right, with heat and time. If you don't do
yeah,
those
those are the
things, like in your basic time, right? Most people in their kitchen don't have a vacuum oven. Um,
no.
so in that case, like with the low and slow, low heat, slow time, you can infuse butters and then go ahead and do it. But if you just eat the raw nug, no, you're not doing the chemical conversion. It's still in its acidic form.
And I
Uh,
think there's a lot of science that's still going to go into the decarboxylation side of it, that
mhm.
there's that
Yeah,
we still don't know. And so to kind of try and I'm gonna try and keep on topic here. So to get to the so now we've made it to an isolate form,
right.
and now we can go make all these different cannabinoids, and I'll list the ones I know of right now that have been converted. And the most recent one is the HHC, and Jason just kind of read some stuff on that, and I'd like to hear him read that one more time here in a minute. And then some other ones that are exciting is a converting to CBN.
Yeah,
To be able
yeah.
to
That's
get
another one.
a liter of CBN, like to have made that through a marijuana product, and get that done. We wouldn't have done it without the farm bill being signed. I really don't think
I
it
agree.
would be
Most
affordable.
of this right now is on hyperactive mode since that has been the case. So,
And
uh,
so CBD, so from the I then we've gone to um, Delta 8, Delta 9, Delta 10,
so you're saying
THCO, and
HHC that you've heard of is currently a conversion, not an
yeah,
extract?
it is a converted oil. It started out from um,
CBD
um,
isolate?
CBD isolate 99
Okay, so
point
this
five
one is
percent.
saying that you can find it naturally occurring too in the
Oh,
seed
I'm sure you
pollen.
can.
Probably not
You
in high
can
amounts, right? But
probably not in high
um,
amounts.
that's amazing to know. I think of all the pollen that I've seen in hemp fields, like, oh, I could have been extracting that. Well, that
And
naturally was getting extracted technically in our oil, but that's a whole other conversation, right?
yeah, I think
About what full spectrum means and the values of that. So,
finding a compound that exists in the planet itself and then converting it, I think there might be some legal things to that I don't really know about. Like, if we convert it to something that doesn't exist into the hemp plant from the beginning, what that really looks like
yeah, it says
in the laws,
HHC is completely federally legal.
and so
Um,
it's like, when
Yeah.
I hear about it from a gummy manufacturer out here, so I went to I met this, and it's cool because I'm still meeting great people in the industry, and I met this lady, and after I met her, I said, "Do your grandkids know how cool you are? Because you're really fucking cool." Like she came in and she was basically like searched for us and had to go to a lab to find somebody that was making really good Delta 9 or Delta 8,
Hmm. Hmm.
and she's a big time gummy manufacturer out here, and she was excited to meet us and everything, and then she's like, I really need some CBD isolate that doesn't mess up the taste. I tried to go to um, do different processes. I don't want to get complicated, but and I couldn't get a good tasting gummy, and she was just so excited to see the isolate I had on deck, and
Oh
and
yeah.
to and to uh, and to get some compliant Delta 8. And so it's like she showed up with purple hair and everything. And and so we go over to her facility, and she's this cool marijuana person with some corporate money behind her, and they can make they're making millions of gummies a month. And
Oh
they
yeah.
just said, "Hey, we're going to make the best gummies, and we're going to send them all over, and we're ready to go."
So she's the one that
And
introduced you to HHC then.
well, no, I had she was the hit. That corporate guy was the second guy that I heard about it,
Oh,
and
okay.
he was looking for some, and I had a couple other chemist guys, hey, look what I'm doing here, and it's all cool, and that's really how I hear about this stuff, and that's really kind of how it happens, and
Right, right.
you know, to uh, uh, to really to simplify what Jason and I just talked about, it was a we came from a flour. We went into a Rick Simpson ethanol extract. We went into a distillate. We went into an isolate, and we got to a point where a chemist can choose whatever he wants to go do from here. And that's pretty that's pretty cool to be able to have watched over the past 3 years. And it's a historical time. Like
Yeah, that
from the hemp.
it's like it's been on like rocket fuel. Like I thought it was that way when we started, right? When we first met, but this is next level
Hmm.
with the Farm Bill. Um, yeah, just specifically for those wondering, like, what's the value of a cannabinoid like HHC, right? This one specifically, uh, this cannabinoid specifically has the power to bind to both your CB1 and CB2 receptors at the same time, which most cannabinoids can't do. So it's able to potentially treat two conditions at once. It's saying like a condition related to the immune system, as well as treating a condition related to the CNS or cardiometabolic disorders. So that's pretty huge. When we talk about long term about future products in our industry, I think we're going to start seeing a fusion of these cannabinoids mixed into medicinal and recreational, right?
Yeah.
Products or formulas, elixirs, tinctures, just
You want
it's
a Delta
infinite.
8, Delta 9, CBN, HHC, tincture? Like, we got you.
Yeah, yeah. And then there will be chemists and formulators and people in our industry chasing these unique, almost cocktails and formulas of different ratios of cannabinoids. Um, and this is a great example, right? Like we have the full spectrum aspect, right? We grow the plant, we extract the full spectrum oil, we give that to our customers and our patients. That's the holistic, the natural way that we know of since the beginning of time, right?
Hmm.
And we try to keep that as clean as possible. This is the science, technology uh, side of things where we can isolate it, done correctly, right? Which we can discuss.
Hmm.
Um, can offer us, especially as scientists, formulators, like a very unique opportunity
But
to
I
try to
think also
create these ourselves.
I think it's not just for them though, Jason. I think it's for our everyday person that wants to make their own medicine now. Like,
I agree.
um,
Some of these look hard to get a hold of, though. That's what I'm trying to make a point.
I think it's gonna evolve. And the same lady I was just telling you about, she called and wanted to know if I sold tinctures for her son that had PTSD from Iraq. And I said, you know what, I know enough about you and the kid in the kitchen and what you can do. Like, I really believe in people making their own medicine, and I believe in you making medicine for your son. So we gave her a little recipe, and she's out like, yeah, that sounds really cool. And I don't think we're there yet. I think you're right. Some of these are hard to get and a little expensive. I know
I'm
Future
totally, you know how
4200.
craft I am, right?
I
Like,
know, right?
like I am all for that at home. I'm just
I
saying in the
know.
sense of taking medicine to another level. Like right now,
Yeah,
we're used to, especially cannabis medicine, we're used to just THC or CBD, right? This is
yeah,
gonna open up a whole new curtain into how we help certain illnesses and diseases that we have using cannabinoids.
absolutely.
Not a nug of flour, which I'm still all for, right? You know me,
Right.
craft as it gets. My brother and I were discussing this today. You can be recreational about something, but I'm talking about the medicinal side, the life-saving,
Yeah,
treating
yeah.
medical conditions. That's
And
where
and that
these balances will be huge because you know me as a breeder. I could search a lifetime for a plant that has the right ratios of cannabinoids for a specific ailment and may never even find it even with technology today. But the
right.
fact that you could figure out you could isolate these cannabinoids, figure out what conditions they treat on a research level,
Hmm.
and then take that data and go ahead and formulate unique medicinal products specifically for those ailments. That's like next level, right?
It is.
That's
It is.
something as a breeder that you can only hope to do, which one day with, with DNA, with a lot of the stuff on the genetic side, we may be able to get there. And that's probably a whole nother podcast, right? But
Yeah.
specifically, when we're talking about cannabinoids, we've just kind of just popped open a cork on a whole thing. And I've always been told, there's hundreds of cannabinoids and phytocannabinoids and stuff. And then you only, wherever, when we first started, handed a couple, right?
Yeah.
And now it's like we're starting to really see some things. And yeah, back to HHC, I see this is the first time I've heard about this, right, guys? And I mean, already see potential. So that's a great point. Last time we talked, we can pivot real quick over to the next one. We talked about THCO
Yeah.
or THCO acetate.
Uh-huh.
Um, that I did a little research on, before this combo. That blew my mind. THCO blows my mind. Um, One, it can only really be done, synthetically right now, unfortunately.
Through
Um,
isomerization.
yeah, exactly.
Now, let me say why we are talking about that in a
Mhm.
on a political and a legal side, there are only certain states that are like yes on the isomerization, and there's a lot of them that are saying no. There's about six of them have just said no. And
Yeah, and
so,
to be honest, this one specifically is a great example of one that might get node real quick on the hemp side, at least, because it's 100 times more potent than THC.
right.
That's literally what it says, 100 to 1. Now, what's even more crazy is it enhances the effect of delta 9 THC, delta 8
Right.
THC, delta
So
10
if there's a
THC,
little bit left in there, he's gonna be rocket fuel.
rocking you. So this goes back to formulation, especially if you were talking recreational or medicinal, but marijuana, medicinal and recreational, right? Not hemp.
Mm,
This could be
yeah.
a great cannabinoid in the future for that market, those
And
products.
let's see how I haven't hit a THCO cart yet. I have access to, and maybe I need to try. Like, is that really gonna do that to, like how much of this is really like who says it's that much stronger? Like some of this is gonna be really interesting. Like now I want to try one. You know,
Exactly.
that's like
That's where I
that's like,
immediately read that and I was
when
like,
some
I need to talk to Richard about this because this blows my mind. This
no,
was a
that's the word on
this
the
was a little
street.
bit of delta 9 or this was a little bit of delta 8 or this was a little bit of delta 10 would be mind blowing comparatively to what I currently do, right? Um,
Yeah, and just so you know, our industry's already throwing that THCO in cartridges, and you can buy one with some terps right now.
wow, wow,
You
wow.
know,
But I mean, right here
so
it says many describe the effects of THCO as very spiritual and introspective. Some even liken the trip to LSD and shrooms, something regular THC products can't claim.
well, let's make some gummies, man.
Right? So, guys, this is what we're saying. We're we're saying that there has been Pandora's box of cannabinoids has been opened, and even us who have been sitting around the box for years are mind blown with what's coming out of the box right now. But yes, so back to the point before everyone thinks that we have some alchemist stone and we're just converting 99% CBD to 99% THCO. That's not how this works, okay? There's a lot of loss. There's a lot
Yeah.
of refinement. There's a lot of process, both chemically and then purging those chemicals and making sure that there is no residual solvents. So lots of lab testing on every step. Um,
To
it's
even
about as
find
scientific
labs
as
that
you
can
get.
test for that. It's even hard to
Yeah,
find
so
labs that can
so
test for the new ones, you know?
yeah, so the new ones, and I've been reading on this, right? So they're saying if you do go test for this to, well, and specifically for the solvents, right? If we're talking clean product, to mention what your processes are to the lab and what you're using to process so that they can help you determine along the way that you're getting rid of all those residual solvents and you're creating a pure product at the same time. But it's really hard. Like some of these, they're saying you still can't produce a pure form. Um, like THCO, I think, yeah, they were specifically talking about, make sure I'm not mixing stuff up. No. THCO was one that once they were talking about the extract and it's actually like, or no, that was Delta 8. Yeah, no, I was reading on Delta 8 and it's like that is really hard to get pure. So some are
It's
very
hard to
easy to
get
get pure,
that
are
THC.
really
So
hard.
you go to Delta. You go to some of them they go to Delta 9 and then Delta 8, and so
Hmm.
that last little bit of Delta 9 hangs on like a fucking hair in a biscuit, bro. That last three
Yeah, and
percent.
that's right. And that's what this is saying that it's more of like a base oil at one point, and then you have to refine that over and over. But this is saying like step by step, guys. I'm not going to read the whole formula, but it's like dissolve CBD into solvent of choice. And then it's saying specifically an alkaline like heptane. I think you use hexane or pentane or what, anyhow. Um, then it's like add an acid of your choice, and it lists like alumina acid or uh, hydrochloric acid, okay? Which again, this is some steep stuff. And then this is an 18-hour process on the one I read. And then you wash it using sodium bicarbonate, and then all through the point you're supposed to be testing it and purging it and making sure you confirm a purity. But it does say the conversion is never 100%. So there's always a variety of byproducts, and you're always lab testing to try to make sure you remove them.
And so, all this about the farm bill and about the conversion and about the money being made on the oil, I can't not have the conversation about the fact that the American farmer lost. Like we're doing a bunch of stuff on this and things are going good, but there was a lot of farmers that put a lot into that bill and trying to figure a new crop and this and a lot of them are never going to farm hemp again and they lost a lot of money. And it's kind of like, and the price of isolate when I started was, you know, $7,000, and now, you can buy it for $250 a kilo. And the person that
Hmm.
really hurts, the person that it really hurts is the farmer. So, I think that without them, we wouldn't have any of this. And if they hadn't taken the risks that they did, we wouldn't have all this isolate. But at the end of the day, not very many of them won. And
Oh
you can
no, I
correct
mean,
me. You
I
can
was
correct me if I'm
I
wrong
was
on that,
there. I was a
Jason.
part of it. I know. No. No, it was
Eh,
very small crowd that stayed successful throughout, and there
And
just
it's a
wasn't
race
the
to the
market,
bottom.
right?
It's a race
Yes.
to the bottom.
So with any developing market, guys, you start on the production side, but if you don't have the whole, processing, manufacturing, sales, distribution, the whole nine developed yet, then your customers can't access your product. So it doesn't matter how much hemp you grow, the CBD isn't going to be on the shelves, right? So a lot of farmers got into the industry because that's what got legalized first, was growing, not the processing or manufacturing or sale. And so it created a lot of losers with very few winners. Now a lot are joining forces, right? You see a lot of big boys coming together,
Yeah.
small guys becoming big boys and coming together. So the market's changing. But yeah, when it first started, it was, and it still is in many senses, the Wild West, right? Um,
Hmm.
but no, I mean, when you talk about what we're talking about now, like I never thought when I first sat there getting my hemp license and learning that I can make CBD oil and all that, never thought once, were all these cannabinoids going to be available from that extract or those products that we were making originally. And so this is like the next era, right? And it's very lab based. It's very, I don't want to say it's pharmaceutical, it mimics the industry, right? So it's about doing it correctly. Because this could also be the guillotine for the full spectrum extracts medicinal products, right?
Yeah, I think
Where
everybody's gonna. Yeah, it could,
this is
but I
easier
think
to produce, this is easier to defend legally, this is easier to just use as a weapon against those things that are harder to control, like full spectrum
yeah, and
extract.
they're gonna try and
So,
mix everything back together, in my opinion, and
oh,
try
100%, that's what they're going to do.
and they're gonna try and get back to what the original Rick Simpson oil was.
That's it. That's it. Back to square one, but it's going to be on a piece of paper and it's not going to have the unknown factor, right? And that's what they're
With
going
a
to
bunch of SOPs and
100%
NDAs, a bunch of shit. Later, we're gonna be
patents,
back to
patents,
Rick,
patents.
Rick Simpson oil. You
Uh,
know.
yeah, and I can't say anything, guys. Like, again, I have always had to eat my words when I say I'll never do something or I'll always be this way. Like, I try to be holistic. I try to be true to the patient. A lot of patients are friends, and some are the closest to family to me. And they're not just taking it for fun, right? So, that being the case, I come from that as my guiding principle. But you always want to make medicine and then be able to create and supply that in a capitalistic society. Um, that's gonna that's gonna create certain avenues, right? That a lot of people are gonna go down. So I myself am very interested in exploring some of these on the conversions. I'd like to try some, see some made. Um, I have a feeling we'll have plenty of more conversations about specific cannabinoids. Um, some of the other ones we haven't discussed that we'll go into briefly. One of the ones I'm very interested in is CBN. So what Richard was talking about is you take CBD, you convert it to Delta 9. So technically it's illegal there for a minute, right?
Yeah,
But it's in
it's
the
in
lab,
process.
it's
Yeah,
in
it's in
process,
process.
right? So this is in a safe facility, but it is Delta 9 for a second. Then it gets converted to CBN. CBN is that cannabinoid that locks you to the couch, that makes you really tired, that helps you with sleep. So
Degraded
it's
THC.
degraded THC. So those red resin glands that you see, that's what we're talking about. When a resin gland or a trichome is forming, it's clear. Then it goes white when it's ripe. That's when it has the most amount of delta 9. Then it over ripens and degrades into CBN. You can do that in the lab in lot larger of numbers, right?
And that's the
Um,
only time we want it. We avoid it like the plague every other time during
every
the
other time.
grow process. You know,
Yeah,
we don't want a little bit of
it's
it. We
because
want
it
a
screws the
lot of it or none
color.
of it.
Yeah, exactly. Because it screws with a lot of things like the color, the effect, the everything of your THC um, oil. So Yeah, CBN is a big one because a lot of the reasons you take CBD products is for rest, relaxation, calmness, sleeping, um, pain relief. CBN helps with all of those. So I'm very interested on that because that's a conversion that I already see a use with our current customers at Eureka Effects.
Yeah. And talking about the conversion, I do want to say the best people in our industry that I see, none of them are formally trained. And they're all just not even chemistry in high school. They're just guys in a lab pulling it off. And I think that needs to be said because it's so many times, you're told, oh, I need a degree for this, I need a degree for that, or if you have something that you're interested in and you're gonna put your whole life into it, that's what these guys have done. And
Mhm. Mhm.
I would say so. I was in a room full of them, and including Murphy Murray. Asked Murphy Murray how much college education. Nothing. None of us have done any of it. And so you know it's a unique group of people that have figured this out, and there's more being born every day.
Yeah, there's
And
now this synergy between chemists and I don't want to say the non-educated, but those experienced in the field directly, right?
from
Um,
what I see, the chemists and scientists are chasing the rest of them. And I don't necessarily have a horse in the race on this one, but I definitely know a lot of the horses in the race.
yeah, yeah,
And I think that's the way history kind of has been, on a lot of things, right down to gunpowder. And so it's like it's it's been a really interesting thing, and I think that academia is going to take it to the next level. But I think they're always going to be chasing our industry because we're going to be having the material to be on the front lines. And I think academia is trying to prove what decarboxylation is, and we're going to keep pushing forward on the new stuff. And I think it's important for all of it, but at the same time, there was a lot of big words used in this podcast, and a lot of um, sounds like technical information. But if a guy wants to jump in the industry and learn, and he finds the right mentor, you can learn a lot off Future 4200. And I don't. I've been like apprehensive to really dig into Good Life Gang and everything, but I gotta say they're the only ones putting on a small scale, small packaging, an affordable CBN isolate that you can go buy right now.
yeah,
Nobody else
yeah.
is doing it, so I got to take my hats off to them. And it's not that I haven't liked them or anything, but I'm a dyslexic guy that doesn't want to read and get on that forum, and there's a lot of how do you say it? I get on, and if I read any hate at all, I'm fucking clicking off. If I don't see anything but positive, and so like I took the wrong impression of the forum, but I'll say those guys are doing it, and there I definitely some feelings of a lot of the secrets I was out trying to train just got handed out for free on the forum. I'll admit it, like
I
after
mean,
that
yeah,
thing
with the
came
internet in
on,
general, right?
it just, well, you know, to go find how to do a mass production ethanol dunk might be hard to find, but everything else in between, is on the forum, and you can educate yourself in our industry, you know, uh, for free. You can give
Yeah, when
yourself
there's
an
a will, there's a
education you
way,
can't
and in
pay
our
for.
industry, most of it's online. I agree. I agree.
It is, and a lot of it's getting in the lab, but you can give yourself an education that you can't even pay for. Like you can't
Oh, I
even go
agree.
pay big
I agree. That's the
money
Gene
for
Gene
what you
West
can.
statement in our last podcast, right? It's like you can go get it.
Yeah,
That education that's available. It just takes some determination and persistence. So,
and I think 3 years, you can
oh
get
yeah,
right there.
that's
But
when I was
yeah,
kind of feeling the prime myself, and I'm at 10 now. So, it's you really start developing your expertise in those years. And yeah, right now the market is so new on all these fronts that if you start learning them now, you're on the cutting edge, right?
Oh
Um,
man. Yeah,
so
you take, you take an 18-year-old person to go hang out and spend, the money to go hang out with Murphy Murray and go spend another $3,000 to go hang out up at in Seattle and learn passive recovery and a butane rig from Busy Bee. Now you just invested $6,000, but if you're talking about college, that's not a lot of money.
oh no, and you're talking
And,
about you still don't know what 1% or less of the industry knows. So
oh
yeah,
yeah,
no,
yeah, yeah. You can spend, and we watch Gene do it. Gene spends so much
oh
money on
yeah,
educating himself, and you can take $10,000 and go talk to the best people in our industry.
100%,
Like you
100%.
can go to, spend $3,000 at each of them, and at three different people, and really give yourself. And I'm telling everybody, if you want to get into our industry, learn metrics. That's the first place to start.
Yeah, yeah. Learn
And,
metric. Make sure you understand the legal system.
you know,
That's gonna be big for what we're talking about now with cannabinoid conversions. Like right now these are gray areas, but these are gonna be ironed out to black and white, right? And
I
that's
think
through
I
the
think
metric
these are
system.
all going to end up on metrics at some point in the next 10 years.
100%, and you'll be able to produce them in an environment under specific regulatory guidelines. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, right now, like that's a good example, even with like CBN. Like I see this being pushed more towards the side of CBD, where even though it can have partial psychoactive effects, it's mainly not. Um, it it's not strongly psychoactive like THC, right? So I think it might be pushed more towards the CBD side. Um, Besides being used for sleep aid or sedative, like I had mentioned, I just read that it helps regulate your immune system, helps with pain and inflammation with several conditions, including Crohn's, helps with intraocular eye pressure and glaucoma, uh, and it's one of the main cannabinoids that acts as an anticonvulsant for seizures and epilepsy. So it's like,
And
or
that's a
with
good
those with
example
epilepsy. So
and that's a good example of academia and all them figuring out, not just figuring out how we did it, what it is that it does, what we just made. Like,
yeah, yeah, and then
like,
using that said information again circles back to us. We reformulate products to fit the market, what our patients need based on that medicinal data. You know,
yeah, because the
so
people making the oil have no idea that it affects the body like that.
right, right, and that's where that full cycle, like making sure that you are educated enough as the processor to always be learning, adjusting your craft, improving your medicine. Um, and this is a great example of it with our products. We started out strictly CBD, full spectrum, and recently we're starting to dive into other cannabinoids. Um, we have talked today about everyone pretty much has heard about CBD and its
You know,
very good beneficial effects. Most people have heard about THC, right? CBN,
yeah.
I don't think a lot have. THCO, very little. Delta 9 is normal THC, but Delta 8 and Delta 10 is probably rare that most people haven't. So you can see we're kind of, and then we have the new HHC, right? So we have all these
Yeah.
new cannabinoids specifically uh, that we've kind of brushed into. There is the base forms, the acids, right?
Yeah.
So THCA and CBDA, then all the other acidic forms. But one of the ones we didn't discuss that is a good one to bring up right now is CBG. A lot of people have been hearing about CBG. There's actually CBG flower available for sale. Um,
And it's
in
probably
some
the most
cases,
valuable oil on the market. I just had somebody trying to buy some from me the other day, and it's super
so
expensive.
it's super, yeah. Well, and the thing is that's one of the ones as a geneticist I've been pursuing because it's only available right now grown on the plant. One of the ones I'm testing this year, like that we have, I'll make sure to get some next time we film. Um, some pictures of, but that I'm growing right now are supposed to be like 16% CBG, no THC. And to those that don't know about CBG, CBG has some medicinal properties itself, but the main point of CBG, especially to the chemist, it is the precursor of all cannabinoids. So you can take CBG and run down most of these cannabinoids we're talking about, CBGA specifically. So you
Is it
can
an
run down,
appetite suppressant too? Is
I
that
think so. Um,
okay?
I think I know for sure THCV is, but that's the super rare sativa THC that
Mm-hmm.
reduces it, but CBG might. But yes, so if you can get enough CBGA, like the flower I'm growing now, right, and then convert it to an oil, you've even gone farther back, kind of like the CBD isolate, right? So there's even more cannabinoids that are now available to you to make. So I think like I said, we kind of cracked the lid of the Pandora's box with CBD isolate. CBG A isolate might be the real winner. So
And
um,
if I could go back to the beginning of the thing, I would probably explain to everybody the difference between isolate and distillate because some people don't know. You know, isolate's a powder and everything else is an oil that we talked
yeah,
about.
yeah. So distillate, you're catching the vapor of the oil and then you're recombining it and you're kind of adjusting the pressure and the temperature to capture certain cannabinoids, but it's still leaving some fats, lipids, waxes, even some terpenes that, kind of get caught. There's certain things that get caught that are still part of the full plant in distillate. In isolate, it's a chemical extraction. Breaking Bad is kind of a good example of it. That's the pharmacy industry where you isolate the pure chemical. In this case, it's a
I mean,
pure
straight up, it looks
cannabinoid.
like cocaine. The stuff I
Yep,
get straight up looks like
100%,
cocaine.
100%. And it's a big, where you crystallize it into its pure form, and then you break those crystals up. The reason you break the crystals up is to get rid of any residual solvents like the hexane we were talking about or pentane, these organic solvents. So, um, yeah, that's the process in itself. But when we
I
talk
didn't
about
make that distinction in the
formulating, right,
beginning.
when we
I
talk
was
about
I was really
formulating
kind of
products, we're probably going to be talking about isolate because distillate is going to still have so many other properties to it that as a formulator, if you're talking about dosing, you're probably going to be using an isolate. It'll be easier to make a product full with multiple cannabinoids using an isolate. I
yeah.
still love distillate. I think it makes great products. It's closer to full spectrum oil, which is what I make my products with. So I agree that closer to the plant is better. When we talk about isolating cannabinoids, you want it in a CBD isolate, a CBG isolate. You don't want it in distillate format. If you're talking about trying to find a pure form of the cannabinoid.
Well, I hope we made this. It's a hard topic to keep simple, and that was really what I wanted to do. So it'll be interesting to listen back and get some people that have no idea what we're talking about and see if this made sense to them. Because
Yeah,
that really was what I wanted to try and help the consumer know. Like, we talking conversion oil? What are we talking? What the fuck are they talking about?
yes,
And
and to a chemist, we're talking to layman's, and to layman's, we're talking to chemists. So we're trying to be in the middle here and kind of present something that's digestible. If you have any
but that
questions,
is the purpose of
comments,
it.
yep, yep. If you have any questions, comments, we're getting our social media channels in order, so feel free to like and subscribe, reach out to us. We're going to be establishing our Patreon over the next couple of weeks to allow Discord access, so you can hop on Discord and message us directly on Discord, hop in and hear us recording live. So a couple perks we're going to add for the Patreon aspect because we are going to start putting on YouTube and stuff like that. And we want a way to engage with you guys. So we think Discord is a great way to do it. And yeah, we appreciate any support, any comments. Again, if you're in the industry and you have a great story for us, you have some facts for us, let us know. We're getting our high line together, and we'll start actually putting that in a website format here soon, as well as some
So,
video. We're trying to build into some things and get you guys some content while we're building into some things, and that's why we're doing audio only right now. So uh,
so I
stay
think
tuned,
this
and
would
we'll
be
have
a.
some more.
Sorry, Jason.
No, you're fine.
this I think this would be on the timeline going in, um, starting from the hemp bill up to, so it'd be like December 2018 up to present time, and documenting. So that would be the chunk on the timeline on the CBD side of what we've seen.
Mhm.
And I think we
Specifically
did
of these
wrap.
extracts we've been talking about, or sorry, not extracts, cannabinoids and conversions that we've been talking about. This market, this history on the
Yep.
High Line is specifically this timeline of the Farm Bill passing, uh, and allowing all of this product development and what we've been talking about. So
And
I
I
think
think
it's a
we
perfect
covered
start.
it pretty good that time from
Definitely.
2018 present on the CBD side of things. So
Yep. Yep. So
that was what we're
2018 to
after.
now, cannabinoid conversions, everybody's pretty much caught up. So we appreciate everyone staying tuned, and till our next Highline episode. Thanks for joining me again, Richard. I always appreciate our conversations.
Thank you, Jason.